California Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff was asked if he would comply with subpoenas when the GOP takes control of the House in January. This is what Congressman Schiff said.
If you are subpoenaed by Republicans when they take over, will you comply?
We'll have to consider the validity of the subpoena. But I would certainly view my obligation, the administration's obligation, to follow the law. And the fact that they have disrespected the law is not a precedent I would hope that would be broadly followed. But we'll have to look at the legitimacy or lack of legitimacy of what they do.
Well, this comes after just a little over a year ago, Schiff himself said that the January 6th committee would hold former Trump aide Steve Bannon in criminal contempt for not complying with a subpoena. And U.S. Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett is being urged to recuse herself from an upcoming Supreme Court case. That Supreme Court case is a collision between free speech and freedom of religion and LGBTQ and discrimination issues. Former members of the Christian group People of Praise say that Justice Barrett's ties to the group mean she cannot rule impartially. The former members told a media outlet that the organization has discrimination policies against same-sex marriage. Justice Barrett has not spoken out publicly on the matter as of yet. And Professor Emeritus at Harvard Law School and author of the book Guilt by Association, Alan Dershowitz, joins me. Good evening, sir.
Hi, how are you? This is one of the dumbest motions I have ever heard in 60 years of practicing law, and one of the most dangerous. My God, the Constitution says no religious test shall ever be required for qualification. Surely you can't have a religious test for sitting on a case. If that precedent were ever to be followed, it would mean all feminists couldn't sit on cases involving sexual issues or reproductive issues. No Zionist could sit on a case involving Israel. No gay justice could sit on a case involving gay rights or gay judge. It would be a terrible, terrible precedent, and it's just stupid.
All right, now I want to find out how you really feel about it. I suppose that it would be slightly different if it were a single judge who was making decisions, but these are 9 people who are going to be making this decision. I mean, does that not dilute it even further?
Even further, but my brother had a case many years ago when he was chief counsel for the American Jewish Congress, where they tried to disqualify a Mormon judge on an issue that could conceivably, his faith could have affected it. And my brother fought hard and successfully to say, no, it doesn't matter what your religion is. Every judge is presumed to be able to put their religious views, their political views behind them. Look, and we know that isn't always the case. You have Justice Thomas, whose wife, is so actively involved in politics, and yet we presume that he can sit fairly. So, no, I don't think, even if it was a single judge in a district court case, that would be a basis for recusal. But certainly when you're one of 9, although she could cast the deciding vote, one of 9 could be a 5-4 decision. But I think it would be a terrible, terrible mistake for her to recuse herself on religious grounds.
All right, it's going to be argued in about, I think, December 5th, so about a week or two. What would you expect to be the procedure? That the motion was made, it just gets ignored, it doesn't even get answered, or will it be answered?
Well, only she makes that decision. The Supreme Court has no provision for overruling the decision of a single justice. So she will either write a very brief statement saying, no, she can be fair about this, or she will ignore it. One thing I guarantee you is she will not recuse herself.
It's interesting how people have gotten, looking more into judges and their backgrounds and their policies. I think we're going to see more of motions like this, that every time anything goes before the Supreme Court, I think that there will be a party who is, feels grieved in some way, who will say that the court can't be fair. We have such a new look at courts now. People are very aggressive about it.
Well, it may be that some judges can't be fair, but it isn't because of their religion or their religious affiliation. That's a serious mistake. People, as John Kennedy said many, many years ago, when you're the president of all the people first, and your religious views have to be put secondary to the Constitution. And I assume that justices feel the same way.
There's so many times when I was practicing law and representing protesters, and because I'm a big believer in the First Amendment, so many times I didn't agree with anything that they were protesting about. Yet, I saw the duty as being a lawyer, and I assume that, you hope that judges do the same thing, is that, regardless of their backgrounds or what they've done, is that they see the duty to the system, to the law. It may be sort of Pollyanna of me to think that.
Well, I represented President Trump, who I voted against twice and plan to vote against for the third time. I didn't agree with his politics, but I defended his constitutional right not to be impeached on unconstitutional grounds. I've defended Nazis, I've defended communists, I've defended people who have done terrible, terrible things. But that's the tradition of John Adams, who represented the people who were accused of the Boston Massacre. And yet many people either don't understand it or refuse to apply it when they have cases they disagree with. I've been canceled on Martha's Vineyard by old friends because I defended President Trump. I would hope more sensible people would understand that every lawyer has an obligation, every judge has an obligation, every justice has an obligation.
And as a piece of trivia, I'll take the last word on this. You and I represent co-appellants on murder, and I don't think either one of us was in favor of murder. But anyway, I'm going to take the last word on that. That was years ago. Professor Alan Dershowitz, thank you, sir.